You can't keep getting away with it! You can't keep getting away with it!
The juxtaposition between Nintendo as a brand and Nintendo as a company is pretty intense. It's like seeing from the creators of Up and Isle of Dogs before a trailer for Saw 12, or taking a How to Be a Good Actor and Human Being 101 course taught by Jared Leto. Nintendo has such a family-focused image that it's hard to remember how scummy they can be, sometimes casually and sometimes aggressively. Because when other companies are scummy, it's like, yeah, of course the guys who made Overwatch are evil, it's Overwatch, but you don't really expect a company to make Animal Crossing by day and sue children by night. The social experience of Nintendo and the expression of player excitement is heavily monitored and often ruined by Nintendo themselves. Switch players are stuck with the worst online experience out of all major players in the industry, including needing to jump through hoops to even voice chat with each other since it requires you to talk separately on an app on your phone, and God forbid you want to discuss or showcase a game to an audience you've cultivated. Nintendo has become notorious for copyright claims on YouTube, something which was especially bad in the early Switch days. I remember the stream of complaints that came out when Mario Odyssey first released. At that point, everyone's videos were being demonetized unless you were part of Nintendo's now defunct creator program. Even if you went through the trouble of joining the program though, you forfeited a percentage of the video's earnings to Nintendo, so no matter which way you sliced it, they were making it harder to openly discuss their games even if that was your job. It seems like the restrictions have been a bit more relaxed ever since the creator program dissolved in 2018, but you can still wind up stiff-armed in some situations. For example, there's this little game called The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom that just came out. It's got a silly, fun, cartoony art style, seems kinda empty, sorta rips off Immortals Phoenix Rising. I don't know if I'm gonna play it honestly, but the chick's kinda bad, so maybe. And this underground indie title got leaked a few weeks before release, which activated Nintendo's ultra security measures. Like Reggie Fils-Aimé, a man who made a name for himself doing stuff like this for a living, responded to somebody who pirated Tears of the Kingdom with a quote from Liam Neeson's Taken. Like, oh my god, that is so intense. Basically just told a kid he was gonna hunt him down and kill him. And even approved footage has been causing bans. Getting in Nintendo's immediate line of sight almost guarantees trouble for you. They're like reverse Oprah. Thankfully, my channel's small enough for me to probably not hit their radar with this video, but just to be safe, for the rest of it, I'm gonna show footage of games that kinda look like Nintendo games I'm talking about, but aren't the actual Nintendo games I'm talking about. It's unironically a little scary making videos on their games considering how Nintendo treats creators who provide free advertising and create strong communities around them. What's even weirder is that they almost seem allergic to rewarding that fan base even in the most basic of ways. You probably remember Nintendo blocking thousands of videos from an unofficial Nintendo soundtrack channel on YouTube, and at first, that seems reasonable. It is unedited copyright content, but the videos were not being monetized, and Nintendo soundtracks are usually not available on digital platforms for some reason, so this is the only way most people could listen to some of their favorite soundtracks. Nintendo offers no official alternatives to their fans, and it's just one of the many ways they make their products unnecessarily inaccessible. Recently, we've seen Nintendo sue a team of hackers who allowed people to pirate games on Switch, among them the infamous Gary Bowser. By the way, the president of Nintendo America right now? Doug Bowser. You can't make this shit up. And while it's understandable for them to take a stance against piracy, I will say more people are likely driven to these illegal methods of purchasing games because of how anti-consumer or behind the times the company can be. The Switch featured outdated hardware the second it came out, but it was a new shtick that actually seemed kind of practical, so we gave it a pass, unlike the Wii U, which was outdated and impractical. In the business, we call that a combo move. Joy-Con drift has plagued this console since it first came out, and only recently it got announced that Nintendo would be fixing them for free in some countries. Good job, guys, only 6 years late on that one. And after clamoring for a Switch 2 or some kind of hardware upgrade for the last few years, the best we've gotten is the Switch OLED, which is just an overhaul of the screen. And yeah, it's cool, but come on. At this point, only the most elite and focused studios can bring out the best of the Switch's hardware. Everything else looks downright gross. I mean, Bayonetta 3 looks like a visual downgrade to Bayonetta 2. When's the last time you saw that? For a while there, we were also going through the dark ages of Switch software. It felt like next to nothing was releasing between its blazing start and the recent uptake in releases. Nintendo Directs got more and more frequent, but less and less exciting. I mean, a kid basically brought out the National Guard out of college because he was begging professors to cancel classes for cryptic reasons that turned out to be a Nintendo Direct. And honestly, he should be thanking God that that one actually had some exciting moments, because imagine if he pulled that shit for like one of the farming directs. But worse than the fact that Nintendo's release schedule was looking a little bit patchy there for a while is the fact that they refuse to budge on any of their pricing for the games that do come out. I'm more likely to win the lottery as I get struck by lightning than I am to see a sale for a Nintendo Switch exclusive game. I went to Walmart the other day and you know what I saw? Sony games for all kinds of prices, high selling, critically acclaimed, exclusive games that came out last year, 20 to 30 bucks off. Xbox, same thing. Their one exclusive was on sale as well, and then you look to the right and it's a sea of Nintendo games for $80 Canadian. Smash Bros released 4.5 years ago, 80 bucks. Zelda, 6 years ago, 80 bucks. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, 9 years ago on a different console and ported to the Nintendo Switch, $80. Thank God I can play some fan games in the meantime while I wait to get out of the crippling debt they put me in. Oh wait, if you make fan games that aren't for profit, Nintendo will still DMCA you. At this point, if you have a ham and cheese sandwich and a guy at Nintendo was thinking about wheat and dairy last night, their legal team will snipe you mid-snack. Game preservation is a big talking point around Nintendo as well. They have one of the richest histories and game catalogs in the industry, but a lot of games get lost in the sands of time and have no legal or realistic way of purchasing them, especially one that affects the bottom line of the company. If an old cartridge is out of circulation and somebody sells it for thousands of dollars, it doesn't mean any money goes in or out of Nintendo, so many people find it totally fine if they use ROMs to play certain games. Whether it's games they already bought legally but want to try out with more advanced hardware, or old games that aren't in circulation anymore. Whether it's cool to use ROMs outside of those situations is a bit more of a debate. It really depends on who you're talking to. Do we really owe anything to big corporations? Something capitalism, eat the rich, you get it. But if you're just looking for a new way to experience something you've already purchased, or want to download a game that Nintendo's not even selling anymore without giving a ludicrous sum of money to a middleman, that seems pretty fair. But unsurprisingly, Nintendo is very aggressive in cracking down on this stuff and does not offer an alternative. They do have a bunch of old games on Nintendo Switch Online, but it's not everything they've ever produced. In fact, I feel like they make the problem even worse sometimes by offering old games and hardware to purchase like their mini NES systems or Mario 3D All-Stars, a port of 3 3D Marios on Switch that are actually less polished than some of the fan-made ports, but at least it gives you the option to buy it legally, and then making them a limited time offer, which doesn't even make any sense. This was available to purchase digitally. How did you have a limited amount to give out? It reminds me of the Disney Vault from back in the day, where Disney would put out a few copies of their animated movies for sale at retail stores and then put them back in the vault and not distribute them anymore. What kind of sci-fi dystopian movie shit is that? Actually, Nintendo in some ways feels like the Disney of gaming, this cuddly exterior with a sinister underbelly. The main difference really is that Nintendo hasn't fallen off in quality and isn't a monopoly. Disney owns basically everything. Hell, they probably own this video. The only way to check is if a character shows up later and makes the most subtle reference to being gay ever known to mankind, and 6,000 news outlets praise this video for featuring Disney's first openly gay character in the video essay genre. But even though they don't have a monopoly, they're such a powerhouse that they can basically avoid any criticism and still be seen as this shining beacon of hope for the industry. Why? Well, let me read out some numbers. 54, 42, 31, 29, 25. That's how many millions of copies the top 5 Nintendo Switch exclusives have sold to date. These are sales all counted on one platform, and the vast majority of them have been at the full price tag. For reference, Sony's #1 highest selling game in its dominant PS4 era? 20 million. How about some more numbers? 96, 94, 89, 86. These are the Metacritic review scores of the 4 most recent high-profile releases from Nintendo, all in the last year. Nintendo is constantly impeding on its own fanbase, shutting down fan creations, refusing to budge on pricing, sticking to old and crusty hardware, and copyright-striking passionate creators, and they can't keep getting away with it. But they will, 'cause they're just that good.